All right, man. So I'm making this video real fast because I am playing the game Armored Core 6, which I think is a great game, but it's still like, that typical bullshit from solve difficulty spikes that and again, I always say I think that it's bullshit. I think the difficulty spikes in FromSoft games are just awful. I think they're very poorly thought out. Um I think there's some mental issue going on because if you look at the company's track record of video games, like that seems to be the only thing that they can do well to some extent because they keep making games and people keep buying them. And honestly, I think especially with like the Soul series type of thing, there's just a certain population out there who just wants to add value to difficulty, right? Even if it's worth it or not, right? And I think that's the part of the population who like craves this punishment, right? Like I would say FromSoft or like Metroid games, like that Metroidvania shit of like intentionally getting lost and then finally figuring it out. Like there's a certain population that these games are for, right? And I'm glad they like them. I'm glad people like what they like because it just leads to more evolution of gaming and technology at a later time to see what it grows into. But like my thing is this, like there's a lot of people who just don't want to sit up and stare at the same screen for 5 hours, stuck on the same area with the same music, with nothing to do, right? Like I totally get that. Like I totally get that. Like so for example, last night I finally did beat was it the Sea Spider. I finally beat it and I moved on and there was another difficulty spike, but I beat that on my second try. It was like a regular mission, but it was just kind of crazy difficulty spike out of nowhere. Now I died the first time because I just didn't see it coming, and the second time I beat it. It's bullshit, right? Like the game is bullshit, but at the same instance, like I just like robots and I like that kind of zoned enders robot fighting where you're kind of like flying to the left or right. I think it's fun, but the game's bullshit, right? Like, I'm not gonna like try to like hide that part at all. So the reason I'm making this video is because I think like that FromSoft community, I think it's just a piece of shit, right? I think the FromSoft community is this elitist community kind of thing. And when I say elitist community, like I think it's this faggot elitist community, right? Because and I'm gonna go into it in this Reddit post I found about Armored Core, right? But this is historically accurate for that from that Dark Souls Bloodborne community. This is like the consistent thing, and the common thing is, oh well, you just have to get good, you just have to get better, or you just all you have to do is just pay attention, right? Okay, like I get that, right? But at the same instance, like many people didn't know what they was getting themselves into going to a FromSoft game or whatever, right? And on top of that, people who've played Elden Ring and Armored Core have typically either played Elden Ring and Armored Core before and knew what to expect, right? And on top of that, they've probably played it for years at a time, right? And there's a large part of the community who probably got in who got who took on Elden Ring because they just heard about it and seen it, or took on Armor Core because they never knew what it was and just took it on and tried to play it because the advertisement for the game looks actiony. It looks like almost like us like it looks like a version of like what Zone of Enders could be now, maybe a little more grounded, but it looks action packed, like you would actually just you like you could sit back and have fun playing it, right? And there is some fun to be had in it. But I think it especially Armored Core, it attracted the game Armored Core attracted people who just weren't prepared for a game from a From Software game, right? And the reason why I think the From Software communities are typically gonna be like faggot bitch made motherfuckers, is because like they have this community again where it's like they put that value in being good at something that they know the rest of the world is not going to waste their time at even trying to be good at it, right? For one reason or another, maybe they just have too much of their own personal life going on, and they don't. And some people just don't have the time to sit down and study a boss for 5 hours, just to barely take it down to half life. And then on top of that, the whole game is locked out and you can't do anything else with it after that, right? Like you can't go off and do anything. Elden Ring solved that problem because they literally just copied Breath of the Wild, right? But Armored Core didn't solve that problem. So if you get to a boss in Armored Core, you can't beat it, well, you essentially can't do anything else with the game, and it's just a waste of $60-$70, right? So for people who didn't know what they were getting into, like I don't blame them for returning the game. Like this reviewer says, like he returned the game after like a couple hours or something like that, or he gave it a dislike. I don't blame him, right? And I don't blame a lot of people for falling into this position. I really don't. Because I think they missold the game. I think they falsely advertised the game, right? They should have like in advertising they should have made it clear, like, look, we made Bloodborne, we made Elden Ring, we made these games that are difficult, so you know you can walk in there. Maybe they did and I just didn't see it, but I think the game got missed. Now again, I think the game's fun. I think it's bullshit from FromSoftware. It's that FromSoftware difficulty spikes. I'm gonna beat it. But I'm going to make myself beat it like I made myself beat Celeste, which I think Celeste was bullshit too. But I made myself beat it just as like a personal accomplishment to beat it. I didn't have fun playing Celeste. Right? The only fun I had was like watching some of the characters develop, and I thought some of the music was cool, some of the artwork was cool for what it was. But I thought Celeste was bullshit too, right? And here's the thing. I'm not going to look down on you for not being able to get through the first level of Celeste because I know it was bullshit, right? The whole game was bullshit. You get touched one time and you die and you got to redo the whole mission over again type of shit. Like, I'm not going to look down on somebody because they couldn't do it, right? Right? And before I start reading these comments, it would be like, okay, before I start this comment section, they people here making fun of people who can't play FromSoft games, right? And they say it's a skill issue, right? So it would be here's this is why I call like that FromSoftware community like bitch made faggots, right? The reason why I call them that is, okay, for example, I would guarantee half of these people in this comment section flunked out of university or couldn't graduate college, right? So it would be like me going to him and be like, well, you need to get good at university then, because I don't know how you couldn't figure out, because I graduated university. I don't know how you couldn't figure. You need to get, motherfucker, you did college since you was 6. You did school since you was 6 years old. You just need to get good, right? That motherfucker would run off crying, right? He would run off in tears off of that shit, right? So like making fun of somebody because they can't beat the first level in a video game, they just need to get good because you're just so fucking great. Like you're a fucking faggot, dude. Because like, here's like, or let's say for example, like if I were to play anybody in like chess, I've been playing chess for years, so like I'm not gonna like say, oh well, you just need to get good and all that. Like I'm not gonna do that, right? Because I understand people don't have the time to sit down and figure out said task. But anyway, let's go through some of these comments. This is ridiculous. It's a little smaller. Let me make the comments bigger. So, yeah, let's read, because this is ridiculous. So somebody asked, is Armored Core tougher than Elden Ring, right? So this person's review said not recommended. And his reason for not recommended says, don't buy the game. The difficulty curve is too steep. If you like spending 8 or 9 hours on a tutorial mission because you can't get past it, then waste of your money. Yeah. And honestly, I don't blame them. I think this game will be a waste of money for anybody who either does not have a history of really liking robots, and or people who have no idea what FromSoftware is, or they were under the understanding that they could actually have just some genuine fun with the game. Like they can like at any moment for any person who thought that they can consistently kind of sit back and relax and play it, right? Like this game is going to be a waste of money for those two people. Like if you don't like difficult games, it's a waste of money. Don't buy it. Right now, again, I've never beat a Souls game. I've never beat a Souls game, but I know what I've played enough of them to know what when I got it, I knew what I was getting into. I was fully aware of what was going to end up happening, right? And I think it's bullshit, but I love robots, so I got it. So like that's what's holding on to me to make me want to complete it because I like robots, right? So I agree. I agree with this person on Steam. I totally agree with him. The difficulty spikes are ridiculous. It's not fun in that regard at all. It's not interesting. Like the difficulty spikes, they're not even interesting difficulty spikes. It's just like shit that you had no idea. There was no explanation. See, and this is what I said in a video, I think last week. There's different types of difficulty. The From Software game's difficulty is lack of information, right? Like lack of information and a mixture of lack of information, poor hitboxes, right? Lack of information meaning the tutorial is, well, go out there and try to feed a hungry lion. That's your tutorial. Right, there's no explanation on what can happen. Like okay, well, are you at a better chance of doing this? They just expect you to go out there and just die a lot. And with that logic, again, I don't blame people for not sticking with it. Like you're a piece of shit for you're a piece of shit for your lack of communication from software. Just flat out. Like I like the game. I can say I even love Armored Core. I love the game, but but it's a piece of shit. Right. So this first person says, no, tutorial boss is pretty straightforward once you understand the control. Stop slashing in the void when you want to shoot your gun because you play. Okay, yeah. So he just had issue with his thing. So Dot Winter says every single FromSoft game has these. You should learn how to take it seriously. But yeah, but the thing is, he might not know what FromSoftware was. But and see shit like this. Who is this, Mr. Kablamo? See, it's these type of people who fucked around and didn't graduate from university. And if I bring up university, he'll be running around, well, I didn't know how you couldn't figure out the homework. If I were to talk to motherfuckers like this, right, and be like, and he didn't finish college, right, and I could go, oh, well, I don't know how you couldn't figure it out. All it was words on the page, and you just follow directions. That motherfucker would have, his feelings would be hurt, right? I'm convinced. Here's the thing. Out of everybody I've ever known who was one of them die-hard From Software games, these were typically people who found like this area and they sit down in their own little comfort zone at home and got good at it and used that as their badge in life, right? I think the From Software community is a piece of shit. I think and that's the story of my life, right? Anything that I have a hobby in, I typically don't like other people in that field. And that's always a story of my life for the most outside the Red Pill community. I never had an issue with them, but in any other community, I usually don't get along with people who do things that I like in real life because I think they just have unfair judgments on people. But yeah, so with this remarkable NPC says, you can filter all negative reviews in Steam in this game and any game from software and see skillless people crying. You see, again, I'm not going to bash you for not being good at a game like this or From Software. Because it's a piece of shit. It's a piece of shit, right? From Software, you are a piece of shit for the difficulty spikes, right? Again, I'm gonna play Armored Core, and I think it's a great game for what you do, but it's still a piece of shit, right? And I'm not gonna blame anybody for being bad at it. So then, yeah, people say skill issue. It's not that games are getting harder; it's players getting dumber. Old Armored Cores were just as see. You played Armored Core before; you already knew what you was getting into. Old Armored Core were just as hard, if not harder. Game developers have been pampering so long. Player skill levels have dropped from the constant babying. Yeah. 9 hours on tutorial, get better, dude. Here, I say, now, I didn't die on a tutorial a lot, but I died on a tutorial, right? But it's that thing, maybe it's because I have other things going in my life. I'm not so ashamed to sound like I failed at something at some point. Maybe it's because I just did so much other stuff in my life. I'm not that, I don't feel that that drive to like push people down like that because they're not skillful type of shit, right? Because I had the same explanation on my theory of how most teachers are. Most teachers you're going to come across in high school or university or even elementary school. Those like you're going to typically come across like 2 to 3 different types of teachers. The one teacher, one t- okay, most teaching positions in general are from people who just couldn't find a regular job in real life. So that teaching is always like the backup job to go get. Once you go to university and you get trained in the field and all that, teaching is for the I would say for 95% of the population of all teachers out there, teaching is the job that you get just to pay the bills until you can get out and do what you really want to do again, right? Teaching is essentially the factory work of the professional world, right? So when it comes to teachers, you're usually going to have, I say, 2 teachers, just to make it simple. The first teacher is the one who's secretly mad because they couldn't succeed in the real world. So they take it out on students in high school or college. They're never going to give an A. Their tests are unbelievably difficult. See, those are people. In reality, those teachers are humans that are mad because they failed in real life. So they're taking it out on the students, right? Then there's another part of the population of teachers who will pretty much give any student an A as long as the student just clearly shows up and shows some effort, because they know that there's far more in life to go out and try to achieve instead of this one history course that nobody's going to remember next year type of shit. Like but they're not bitter about going in there type of thing. So long story short, there's usually in education there's either bitter people or there's people who are not bitter, right? And you can tell it pretty quick based off of their reputation, how many people are passing, failing, how many people are getting A's, or how many people can't get A's. You can usually tell it's the bitter. It's the people who are bitter from real life, right? Now, I'm not bitter from real life, so I'm never gonna push you down for most anything, right? I'll tell you the reality of the situation, but I'm not gonna push you down, right? And again, I think the FromSoft community typically is the people who are bitter from real life. So they got into something that they finally found something that they can actually control and push down other people for not being good at it, right? So this person who's this Daddy Salad. He looks like he has a realistic perspective. He says, "I'll admit that the tutorial boss was kind of hard," and I agree. The first helicopter boss, I think I died twice, and I started to think it was like hopeless, and I ended up beating I think the third time because I just couldn't dodge the missiles. I didn't know how the stagger meter worked. Like the game doesn't do a good job. For those of you who've played it, like, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't really do a great job at fully explaining like how, okay, the stagger meter might be different for different enemies. I had no idea, right? Like, or how long it'll last or what weapons can do. Like, I had no idea. It just doesn't explain much, which typically tends to be like a problem once you leave like the Western worlds. Like, explanations just go out the window and nobody knows anything kind of thing. But so this guy, he continues, but I got it after a few attempts. The controls are way more complex than a Dark Souls game. I guess, yeah, I can agree with that. Even though I never completed a Dark Souls game, so I'm speaking a bit out of ignorance. Because you definitely have to run around and pay attention to a lot more. It's bullet hell Dark Souls. Dark Souls isn't bullet hell. Dark Souls is pretty much a boxing match. It's just looking for a telegraph move kind of thing. But again, I've never beat a Dark Souls, so I'm speaking a bit from ignorance. But Dark Souls is more of a boxing match, whereas Armored Core is more of a bullet hell, right? But it still has that FromSoftware twist on it. So he continues, it's not just managing stamina and roll attacks. It's managing 3 to 4 different weapons, dodging a billion bullets while flying up in the air and all sorts of crazy shit. It's great, hard but satisfying as I'm learning how to pilot the thing. Yeah, I agree with him. Yeah, Daddy Salad has the best. This dude has the best summary. It's down to earth. He's explaining shit well. It's great. Now, here's the thing with Armored Core. I'll go even deeper in a minute to expose just how ridiculous it can get, to how to beat a certain boss or a certain area based off of what you like, right? And I also have a running theory too, and this is a side rant. I have a running theory on the difficulty. And this is just, and I'll say it's a conspiracy theory. So when I beat the spider last night, pretty much after I live stream, I beat the spider within, I think, about 4 or 5 tries after I finally beat the spider. What I did was I went and watched other people play the spider. And what I noticed was they weren't getting anywhere near the same type of aggression that I got from that spider. For example, when you would stun the spider, right? And this is just an armored core conversation. When I was fighting this, because you guys seen it on the live stream when I played it in the first 30 minutes. When I was stunned the spider, I could not sit still while the spider was stunned for too long because it would start shooting me with missiles and lasers. But when I watched other people play, many other people could just sit there and just shoot it, and it wouldn't shoot a laser or missiles at them, right? So I chalked that up to one or two things. Either one, it could just be an RNG situation where like just it could be random, or what I'm leaning towards for my conspiracy theory is the second part could be based off of how you beat a boss in an earlier mission that changes the aggression and RNG of a boss of a boss like later on in the game, right? That's what, because again, when I'm going through comment sections and I'm reading how other people's experiences were, bosses that I had no issue with, like it's almost flipped. Like the bosses that I had no issue with, other people struggled with, and it's flipped. They like so again, my conspiracy theory is because the game records how much the ammunition you used, how long it took you to beat the boss. The game's recording all this every time you beat a boss. So my conspiracy theory is, depending on how you beat an earlier boss, it changes the aggression of a later boss. Because again, when I watch people fight that Belitas or whatever his name is fight, the end of chapter 1 boss fight, they were getting different. I was using the same build, everything, and they were getting completely different aggression out of that boss than I was getting, right? Okay, with my live stream, I recorded that live stream, right? The aggression I was getting out of that boss was I watched one guy with the exact same build that I had, and he literally just floated above him and just shot him with missiles, ran to the other side, shot the spider with missiles, and he finished with almost full life and didn't use one health pack, right? When I played that boss, that motherfucker was not he wouldn't let me do that, right? So again, my conspiracy theory is, and I'm probably one of the only people that ever brought this up that I've ever seen talk about games. Based off of how you beat an earlier boss, I'm fully convinced that has an impact on how later bosses will react to you. It's in the. I would guarantee. I'm almost certain that is in the program is somewhere. If you had a harder time with the earlier boss, well, the later boss is programmed to be less aggressive, or vice versa. Like just like how they used to program like NBA Showtime, or I'm saying NBA Hang Time, right? Like if you did good in the first quarter, well, the second quarter you're only going to shoot like at best 40% or something like that. Or like go look up like NBA Hang Time, how they used to program that game. Where you thought it was your skill level, but no, the game was programmed to do that to you, like you weren't going to win type of shit, right? But no, back to Daddy Sally. I think he has a great explanation. So I'm going to elaborate on him because he has the only down to earth explanation. So this I don't know how you say this. In my opinion, my main difficulty is the same difficulty that comes with ranged weapons in a game like Monster Hunter, in which there's a critical distance for weapons in your arsenal at maximum accuracy. This plus the difficulty curve in learning how to effectively pilot your mech means that a ton of the time in the beginning is just spent on learning how to fight against the target lock in order to achieve goals in combat. The lack of iframes can also be jarring. Yeah, there is no iframes. Yeah, as you literally have to jump, then aerial dodge certain projectiles like missile barrages in order to effectively avoid their splash area of efficiency, I guess that means, whilst breaking line of sight to avoid machine gun fire. Then you have to throw an assault boost mix for the huge risk reward. Yeah. And here's again, I've never beat a Souls game, so I can't really, but I would say Armored Core definitely has a bit more. Here's the thing, like again, I think Dark Souls is more of a boxing match, right? Like it's more just looking for a telegraphed punch type of thing, right? But you have to learn everybody's telegraph punch. Whereas Armored Core is that plus Armored Core is a boxing match in bullet hell, right? On top of that, a motherfucker that's like highly agile, right? Like, but yeah, but yeah, this this scenario. Okay, so this dude spent 9 hours on a tutorial, right? If I had to guess, he probably never. This guy probably never. He probably never played a FromSoft game. Because another thing that you know from when you play FromSoft games is what you learn real quick is that you cannot just go in and button mash. But the thing is, I think due to the nature of what Armored Core looks like, it looks like the type of game you can like a robot. It looks like a robot game where you can't just go in there and just blindly button mash and get out, right? But From Software games are strategically built to not be like that. right? Right, like you're gonna get destroyed if you go in there just running and gunning, not really caring, trying to just be a bullet sponge. You're gonna get destroyed. Even if you walk in there with a tank, you're gonna get destroyed. But yeah, the this whole skill issue. So this is the good one. Well, that's why people should understand that not every game is created for everyone in the gaming space. People should start to focus on what they like and can actually play instead of crying or review bombing a game that was never meant for them in the first place. Play games because you want to try and or play them, not because the masses are going after them. Well, that's okay. See, this is a pretty, in my opinion, just a pretty basic yet ignorant perspective because again the game was not marketed on difficulty. The game, when you look at any advertisement for the game, like it almost gives you that same vibe of Zone Enders, like a game where you can just go in there and have some genuine fun, some slight challenges, that type. It doesn't market itself like what it is, right? Again, I don't fault anybody for like. Okay, I would not recommend you spend money on it. I recommend you do what I did, like what I would always do with a FromSoft game: pirate it. Don't spend money on it. I would say spend money on a game. Okay, unless you like to play games, unless you like to seriously play games and spend 5 hours in one section on the same section at minimum, right? Or just incredible frustration. Unless you like to be frustrated, just in search for that aha moment. Like unless you like that, like don't buy it, pirate it, or rent it. Rent it, pirate it. Don't spend any more than $20 on it, right? But again, the game wasn't sold like that. The game was sold on the game advertised itself as as almost more of an adventure robot game from the advertisements that I remember seeing about it. It sold itself more like that. So again, like I don't blame people for being mad for spending the sixty bucks. Oh yeah, you gonna be mad, bro. You spend money on that, you gonna be mad, right? Like I would recommend with games like this, I would recommend you pirate it, like I did. Don't spend money on it. People asking for a difficult slider in Elden Ring was insane, stupid, and the epitome of this. They couldn't even understand that leveling as much as you wanted was a slider by itself. Well, yeah, Elden Ring was just copying. It was an RPG slash Breath of the Wild, and I'm never gonna play it. I have it. I have Elden Ring. I'm not gonna go back to it. I just thought it was just. I just don't think it's a good game. And I agree with No Store. I don't really think he's review bombing. He's just informing people that his experience, he thinks the game is too hard. I'm a little confused how it took him 9 hours. Well, 9 hours, it could technically be he just left it on pause or something and moved it or something. Maybe I doubt he was stuck for nine. I doubt anybody spent 9 hours on that and kept going back to it. The motherfucker probably just paused it or something and left it. I mean, but yeah. Yeah. Okay, so here, yeah, I will give my honest take as the millennial gamer dad. Elden Ring is hard. Never finished it. Just did not have time. But can respect the gameplay. It just falls into maybe someday for me to finish. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, yeah. I played the OG Armor Core one on demo. Saved pennies. Bought it. Blah blah. Um, bought the game. He bought Ace. He bought Armor Core. Played up to the helicopter, which was the first mini boss, and returned the game. It became obvious to me the direction the game was headed. Yeah, this is a new iteration of the game where the levels are like AC 1 through 5. The bosses are much more Dark Souls with the mechanics. I just don't have time to fumble for hours on that type of gameplay. It doesn't appeal to me anymore. Yeah, I agree with him. Yeah, now I beat it, but again, okay, yeah, like I'm sticking with it, but also I don't work a full-time job. I have a son, he's one, but I don't have a full-time job. So I have time to sit up and, and fuck with it like that. But I'm not going to bash somebody who doesn't. And I totally get, because here's the thing, as a human, any human can learn anything. If you're human, you can learn how to do XYZ. So it's like I hate that thing of like just tell people, oh, it's just skills. Like any human can sit down and figure out anything. If Albert Einstein did it, then you can do it. All right. The only difference was Albert Einstein had the time and resources to sit down and fumble with it for 5 hours straight. Whereas, you know, Francis, the factory worker with three kids, is not gonna have time to sit down and figure out physics like that. Right. So it's not a skills issue. It's just, okay, what resources do you have at your advantage, right? Now, if you want to be fair about it and chalk it up the skill issue to the FromSoft community, well, let's bring up the level of your education, right? For the FromSoft community who's like, oh, it's skill based. Well, let's bring up education. You went to school from kindergarten, right? So why didn't you go off and get a master's or a doctorate? All you had to do was read a book. Sounds like a skill issue to me. Well, no, you had to work and yeah, and all that, right? So yeah, so it's not a see. This is why I say like I'm ending off with this, man. I think the From Software community is just I think it's just a bunch of bitch made faggots, right? Who's just putting other people down for ridiculous shit. But or like this, tell me you suck at video games without telling me you suck at video games. That takes skill. Yeah, yeah. See, like this type of shit. Like yeah, well, tell me you suck at school. Or like I guarantee this motherfucker either couldn't pass school, is horrible, or I could destroy him at chess, or I'll destroy him at, let's say, a simulation racer, right? But I'm not okay. Here's the thing: if I walk in a room, right? So this is just gonna be a fact. I've been playing chess for years, right? Now I'm not the best chess player in the chess world, right? But I guarantee you, if I go to any bar or party or something like that, and there's a chessboard, there's a good chance I'm gonna win at least 80%. I'm gonna beat at least 80% of the people 100% of the time, right? It's just what it is, right? Now, I'm not gonna go off and be like, well, you should have known it was chess, so it sounds like you just need to get good. Like, no, because I know these things take time, right? I'm not gonna bash you for not being able to beat me at chess. I'm not gonna look at you like you need to get good or all this. I'm not gonna look down on you for that because maybe you don't have the time to sit down and again fumble for hours on a chessboard, right? So the overall message I'm trying to get through to this is don't don't be a bitch made faggot by like bashing other people because they just didn't get good at one thing in life. Because like I can equally bring another angle on your life on how come you didn't just travel to Prague and live in Prague for 5 years. How come you didn't? You worked a job, you had money. How come you didn't do it? Well, maybe you need to get good at saving your money and traveling. No, I'm not gonna bash you for that because everybody doesn't have that option in life for whatever reason. Maybe they got kids, they gotta take care of their mom. Maybe they just scared to fly on planes. Whatever. I'm not gonna bash you for that, right? And here's the thing: I don't hide in my what's the word I'm looking for? I don't hide in my accomplishments to look down on other people. Like, I'm not going to look down on you because you didn't get a master's degree or you didn't get a bachelor's degree or nothing like that. I'm not going to hide in what I was lucky to be able to accomplish. I'm not going to hide my ego in that. I'll be the first one to tell you, my education means nothing to me, right? But I do have it, but I'm not going to use that in an argument unless you bring it up, type of thing, right? So my thing is this: the overall message is don't be a bitch made faggot and push other people down for shit, right? Because I equally have something that I could have been better at and I'm just not good at, right? So that's the overall message. If anybody even made it this far, you're amazing, because I've just rambled. But yeah, I'm out of here. You guys have a good day, man. Peace out.